What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Luke here with our round 3 live stream. I'm super hyped. Like they said, if you don't birdie the first hole and the second, you can't birdie them all. Well, you can't go wire to wire in a GPP if you aren't leaning after day 1 and day 2. And that's exactly where we are right now. It's actually a different lineup that ended up being in the lead, but hey, I can't complain at this point. We are absolutely smashing today. Went 3x on Showdown, ended up making a slight profit on PrizePicks, and then over for our 4-round stuff, like I mentioned, we're in contention, right? We have a lineup tied for first place right now, a few in the top 50. And outside of that, an outright on Xander Schauffele on the Ghost leaderboard, sitting in a great position. So I can't complain there. Hopefully everyone out there is having a similar type of week. Also can't complain because I'm on site in Atlanta. Had a lot of fun today. Had a few whiskeys. I'm having one right now, right? We're on vacation. We're going to have some fun. And tonight going to a steakhouse. We're going to STK, which is an upscale steakhouse here in Atlanta. Actually have reservations to get to right around 9:30 p.m. So we're going to make this a quick live stream. Get through everything as quick as humanly possible so that I can go freshen up. The boys can get in here, do their thing as well, and we can get on the road. But without further ado, let's catch up on chat. What's going on down there? I could see a lot of you down there. CJ, this isn't a paid plug, by the way. This is completely by coincidence. I'm just talking about how I'm in first place right now. You love to see it. I'm glad that you noticed that, CJ. Hopefully we can take that home. That'd be pretty sweet. There's actually a lineup that's tied for 29th in that contest that has 147 dupes, including myself. So in 29th, through what is it, like 166th place in the large $5 GBP is all the same exact lineup, which I find pretty comical. Obviously, that's not going to be expected in that sort of contest. So I've been joking with all of you in the Discord, being like, if any lineup wins except for that, I'll be pretty happy. So yeah, again, I'm glad you noticed that, CJ. Welcome to the live stream. We've got Robert down there too. You love to see it. Bill Thomas says, who's going back to Burns with you? I will be, that's for sure. He doesn't get held down very long. He's great at bouncing back, has one of the best shoulders, or I should say head on his shoulders of anybody in the entire league. Just a good kid, somebody who can wash away that failure and go out there and have that bounce back. So I'm right there with you, Bill. I'll talk about him a little bit more later. DFS King down there says he had a great day. He wishes he played some more Homa. Yeah, I wish I did too. I had 30%, should have been 100% with the 62 today, but good call on Rom, Xander, and Matsuyama. Yeah, love to hear it. Today was, again, right around a 3x day for me. We also had lineups in contention in the GPP for Showdown today. So we had a little bit of a sweat there too that I was obviously watching in person. Didn't end up taking it down, but still had, what was it, like 3 lineups in the top 25. Can't complain about that. Nick Marsh down there, what's going on? Says Luke is kicking ass and taking names. I can't complain there. It's been one of the better weeks I've had for quite some time. And he also says F the Bengals. This guy knows how to get me riled up. Absolutely love it there, Nick. Hopefully you're having a good Friday night here. Steven says he's in the house. Love to have you here. We have Robert who says pain. That's a super sick inside joke, by the way. Yeah, absolute pain at this point, right? We're not having a good week at all. Jeff says, how often do you duplicate your Showdown lineups with your regular 4-round lineups? Not at all. If it happens, it's by coincidence. It's not something that I'm actively looking to do. And frankly, I don't even check on that. So if they end up having a duplicate, it's just by pure chance. There is usually quite a bit of overlap, though. There's a lot of guys I'll play in 4-round lineups and then get to in Showdown because they were good course fits, right? I liked them going into the week. If they started off hot, right, why not ride that hot hand, or on the vice versa, right? Now, why not go for that bounce back? So there's definitely going to be quite a bit of overlap there. Eddie says, Hideki baby, thanks Gsluke. You cashed big. Yeah, I cashed for 3x, but if you cashed big with capital letters right there, I'm assuming it's more than 3x. So congrats to you, Eddie. That's pretty awesome. Steven says, not much smoke going on Neiman. Your thoughts? Yeah, we'll talk about Neiman. I think he'll be a little bit chalky just based on how he's played over the first 2 rounds. But he's coming in with form. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about him. I'm not the biggest on Neiman personally, just to give you the Spark Notes version here, Steven. But I think he's a more than adequate play. And Howdy, the last comment we'll touch on before we hop into it a little bit, says, hey, Luke, I was able to cash a few bucks today, all thanks to you after watching your stream. Love to hear it, guys. All of these winners down here in stream, that's what you like to see. That's why we're here for the live stream. And now let's hop into it so we can bring it to you here for Saturday. So going to bring up the sheet here on Data Golf, bring you some of the stats from round 1. And let's talk about the golf course, right? As we did for Wednesday, yesterday for the live stream. Let's talk about the golf course in general, what I saw. I saw a golf course that was drying out. I talked about a lot of those muddy patches yesterday that indicated to me that we'd have a receptive golf course today. And that is exactly what we got, right? 2 shots under par. Day one, it was 2.1 shots under par. Pretty much played identically, which is exactly what I expected here for the next round, right? So all of that was good news. There was no delay, which thank Lord, right? Didn't want this round to go into Saturday. So from a spectator standpoint, that was ideal. And from a playing conditions standpoint, I mean, you had everything that you wanted to today. Pins were relatively simple. They were in some of them were hard to access, but they were all more than gettable because of how receptive the greens were. But by the afternoon, all of those muddy patches where you'd step on it, you'd sink in about half an inch, that sort of thing, which sucked with all of my. I wear Yeezys everywhere. It's like the only shoes that I have in my entire closet. It sucks because I had to go home and like wash them, put them in the washer, bleach them, that sort of thing. They were seeping into the mud. Kind of sucked. I hate fucking up my Yeezys out there, but is what it is. I'm not going to wear like Nikes out there, something like that. I hate how I say it like that. I sound like such a snob, but I like high fashion. I'm sorry, guys. I had this circumstance that was gone. By the afternoon, didn't have to worry about that. It was rock hard out there. Everything had dried out. The greens, you started to hear the thud when shots were hitting it. You weren't getting a lot of drawback. You weren't getting a lot of spin on the greens. So a lot of those accessible pin locations, particularly on the back nine, that like a Corey Connors was able to get close to. Max Homa, who took the place really low there in the, I guess he was towards the middle of tee times there. Actually, maybe shading towards the beginning there. It wasn't like a Corey Connors who was finishing an hour, 2 hours before. He was able to still access some of those pin locations, some of the front ones. Guys like Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele had a lot more trouble doing so, and they hit hell of iron shots into them, right? I was watching that in person. They hit about the best shot that you probably could, and they had about 20 feet, and they cashed in on a few of them, right? That's why they got to their ceiling round. But there was no doubt a slight advantage, at least today, for the guys that were out there a little bit early. The reason why I'm having a little bit of trouble kind of projecting that for round three is I think it's going to play a lot firmer for the entire day, right? All of that was caused by the rain there on Thursday. It rained during the practice round on Wednesday too. I talked about that during the live stream. And the entire week before, it rained like Monday through Wednesday, the entire week before the golf tournament. That's starting to go away, right? This golf course has great drainage. It's been really sunny today. I mean, there was overcast in the morning, but by the afternoon, it was sunny out there. It's supposed to be completely clear for all of Saturday and Sunday. So you're going to get even more baked out greens. They're going to have plenty of sunlight and heat to go out there and make them a little bit more crispy. You're going to look at a harder golf course, right? This typically plays close to 1.2 or 1 shot under par. And even with moving day pins, I think the scoring average is going to be harder. And, typically in moving day guys, by the way, if you're not familiar with this, they usually make them a little bit easier. They try to make scores a little bit more obtainable, maybe not so much in terms of like easy cupcake type of pins, but they'll put them in spots where there's risk reward aspect, where if you hit a good shot, maybe there's a bull that moves the ball a little bit closer to the hole. But at the same time, a lot of times they're tucked near the water. They're tucked near a really tough sand trap, that sort of thing. So they give you that risk reward type of aspect. So even with that, even with a lot more birdies out there, at least in my opinion, from what we see for most moving days, and at East Lake, that's certainly been the case too. You've seen a lot of low rounds for round three. I think the scoring average in general is going to get a little bit more difficult. Again, it's going to be firmer and faster. I think that is going to outweigh the slightly easier pin locations that we get. And the wind conditions are identical, pretty much no wind at all, which as a spectator, I actually think kind of sucks. They're going to be teeing off a little bit later too. I think they're going off right around noon for the first guys tomorrow. There's no wind to get all the humidity out there, right? To cool you down when you're trying to take a break there, that sort of thing. You just got to find a place of shade out there. The players were even doing that. They were standing in the shade when they could on tee boxes. It's hot out there. I'll say that, right? Today, what was it? It was only like 80 degrees. It felt like it was 90 to 100 degrees because there was no wind out there. You can see there was like 3 to 5 miles an hour today. Here on Saturday, there's truly no wind. I mean, it's 1 to 3 miles an hour. That's literally non-existent when it comes to these tour pros. So I think the scoring average is still going to get more difficult despite the, weather conditions being almost ideal, just because of the receptiveness, right? A lot of those pin locations, they're not even going to be remotely as acceptable, or I should say accessible. And for moving day pin locations, they love tucking them right over hazards. Like I mentioned, they give you that risk reward type of aspect where if you can pull off the shot, right, you're going to have a kick in for birdie, something like 4 or 5 feet. But if you don't pull it off, you're going to be in a world or a heap of trouble, right? So I think just, expected scoring average, maybe 1.5, 1.6 shots under par, and not a huge difference between the waves. I think it's going to play a little bit more difficult pretty much from the first tee time, right there around noon local time. Should be playing right around 1.5 strokes under par, probably the same throughout the entire day. In terms of our player poll, let's go ahead and hop over to that now. We'll also see if there's any more comments to catch up on before we get into it, so we don't get too far behind on you guys. Let's see what we've got. Let's see. We have Mark who says, I should have listened on Hovland. Yeah. Hovland, he had like an okay day. He started off pretty hot, but pretty much made pars the rest of the day out. Probably didn't kill you in either direction. It was pretty an average play today, I'd say. Howdy says, also good luck carried on today. I got some Eagle. Oh, sorry. You got some Eagle Rare at your Total Wine. By the way, Eagle Rare, I love it, right? I've had it just a few times. Sorry, sometimes when I read on here, I try to talk too fast and I skip over words thinking I'm going to be slick. You can't do that, right? You got to read things slowly like an intelligent human being. Us engineers, we're not really worried about like words and meaning. We're more worried about just like getting shit done fast, right? So just bear with me sometimes on stream, guys. I go a little bit too fast there. Yeah, dude, Eagle Rare. I like it. Just reminded me, right? I got my, this is Maker's Mark right here. It's casket strength. So degenerate me, right, wants to get a little bit stronger whiskey because, you drink a little bit less liquid, makes the stomach a little bit less bloated, right? That sort of thing. So that's always my take on it, right? If you're giving me something like 55%, 60% whiskey, I can sip it straight because I'm not a little bitch. I'll just say that. So that's what I got right here. And Mark says, you need some wins tomorrow, but well, you're in the right place, Mark. You're definitely in the right place for that. So we've got our player pull up. Let's talk about our Saturday Showdown in general. So just what we keep in mind every time we're playing Saturday Showdown from a strategy and just a holistic perspective, right? So Saturday Showdown, no placement points. We know that, right? Sunday Showdown, that's a different story. We're going to talk about that for our live stream tomorrow. That is a huge part of our analysis, particularly with the starting strokes, right? You might have Scotty Scheffler up by 5 strokes tomorrow for all we know, or he might not even be winning after tomorrow for, especially with how Xander's playing, which we're going to talk about both of them here in a second. But everyone plays Saturday Showdown. I shouldn't say everyone, right? If you're watching this stream, you're not included in that statement as everyone, right? When I say everyone, I'm talking about your pure slapdick out there, somebody who has no idea what they're doing, the guys that are paying the rake for all of us sharp players like you, myself, other people that are doing research, right? It's not just the people here. There's other sharp people out there too, right? I'm always willing to tip my cap to people that know what they're doing. But a lot of the people that don't know what they're doing, they play Saturday Showdown like there's placement points. Like the fact that they're in first place matters. In fact, most of the time, and this isn't really a thing this week, right? Because we're only dealing with 30 players. They're all teeing off within like 2.5 hours of each other. But like normal weeks, right? The guys that just hardly make the cut are teeing off at like 7:30 a.m. Whereas the guys that are in the lead are teeing off at 2:30 p.m., right? Their conditions in the morning are typically 0.5, sometimes a shot easier than what you're going to see round to round on tour. Why wouldn't you target the guys in the morning, right? Just blindly. I mean, even if the guys in the lead are playing well, they have that form, you're almost always wanting to take the guys in the morning that have a chance to get to that ceiling performance, that are playing on pristine greens, more receptive conditions, and usually playing with less pressure, right? If you're leading after 2 rounds, there's not as much pressure as when you're leading after 3 rounds, which is definitely a thing with Sunday Showdown. But even after 2 rounds, right, there's a lot of added pressure. I mean, especially at a tour championship, right? So ideally, we're going to want to target the guys that are a little bit far behind, that maybe aren't playing so well, right? Because first off, better conditions. I mean, for this tournament, not necessarily so much the case, but more importantly, especially if you're playing in a large field GPP, which is pretty much what this stream is meant for, right? Most of the contests out there you're playing, it would be considered a GPP sort of format. You want to take the lower owned players. And almost always, because like I mentioned, everyone wants to play the guys that are up there towards the lead that they think get placement points for whatever reason, which is just foolish, right? They're full of shit. I guess they don't understand the scoring system out there when it comes to their showdown laps. They just blindly pick their players. They're going to take the guys in the lead, right? So a Rory McIlroy, for example, who's not even that far back, right? He's like in tied for like 7th or 8th right now, something in that range. I have him at 26% owned. That's like 15% less than Xander Schauffele and Scotty Scheffler. So 26% for a normal slate would be a lot of ownership. Not when there's 30 players, not when somebody's like 40, 45%, like a Scotty Scheffler there up top, which actually makes him a pivot in that range. So we're going to talk about just the general strategy. That's essentially what I'm going with. And for today, by the way, I talked about starting lineups with Jon Rahm. He was $9,500 yesterday. I should say today, not yesterday. Blah, right? I already think I'm on to the next day here. He was the nuts. Like if you started lineups with Jon Rahm at $9,500 yesterday, you hit the nuts because then you could take a few other guys in this range that absolutely went off. Just to give you a few examples, right? Let's see, Tony Finau went off. You're able to fit him into lineups. You could have played Sungjae Im again if you wanted to in that same type of lineup. And then you could have just jammed in a bunch of guys here in the 7K range that had good days, like Aaron Wise went off today. You could have played Jordan Spieth. He made a bunch of birdies. Corey Connors shot 5 birdies and shot 4 under par. Max Homa, obviously. You could have just made this super balanced build, essentially spent all of your salary, and probably been unique too, right? Because Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, they had hell of rounds too. I mean, Xander Schauffele, ideally, you probably could have played. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people took down tournaments today using Xander Schauffele. That wasn't the optimal play, though. The optimal play was being able to jam in just a bunch of guys up top. If you took Xander Schauffele, you could probably have fit in Jon Rahm, but then you would have had issues taking a lot of these 8K guys, right? Because you're dealing with like $7,200 remaining for your salary. That's why I liked getting to that balanced sort of build. And I'm really feeling the same thing here because, Scotty Scheffler is going to be super high owned. Same thing with Xander Schauffele. I don't want to say that they're like, you can't play them for large field GPPs because, spoiler alert, they're both in my player pool. I'm playing them, but I'm going to be matching the field on them. They're not guys that I'm like living or dying by tomorrow. Because you only have 30 players, it's like one of the only weeks all year when it comes to the PGA Tour where I think you can actually match the field on maybe 4 to 5 players in the entire pool and get away with it because you can still play 20% plus of 20 players in this player pool and get leverage to, let's say, 15 of those 20 players. And then 5 of them, like I said, you might be matching the field on. I'm okay with that. You should have enough permutation. Or how would I say permutation? Just the wrong word for it. It's combinations. That's a pet peeve of mine. You'll have enough combinations with at least 20% of all your players in your pool to ideally get all of them matched up together, right? It's not going to be a perfect match. You're going to have a lot of outcomes that you're not covering, but you're going to cover enough of them to feel pretty good about that. So if you're playing in a 150 max, I don't think you have to fade those 2 guys up top. But in terms of getting like pure leverage, like playing 100% of one or the other, I mean, I don't have a lean either way. They're both playing really good golf. They're both identically good course fits. Scotty Scheffler played well here his first time, finished 5th place, is tearing it apart to this point. Xander Schauffele is the East Lake Whisperer, right? We would be hard-pressed not to want to play him at this golf course. I mean, good luck trying to choose between them. They're like identically owned. They're playing well. Like, I don't know, pick one out of a hat, pick your favorite, play 100%, or just play like 50% of each one. Like I'm going to, which again might be like 10, 11, 12% leverage on either player. It is what it is. Like, at least to me, right? I don't see a difference between the 2 plays. They're playing almost identical golf at this point. I mean, I guess Xander Schauffele, right, has scored better to this point. So maybe you expect him to come down to earth. You'd argue that he had his ceiling performance today. Sure. And I've heard that argument to this point already. I've had a few people already comment that on my Patreon page. Go to Scotty Scheffler and then it's the clear pivot, right? But if you sit there and go, oh, well, Scotty Scheffler is the world #1 player, right? And I want to take him because of that. Or you go, okay, well, Scotty Scheffler's in first place. Maybe he's dealing with more pressure. Then maybe you take Xander Schauffele, right? I mean, just do whatever you want with those 2 guys up top. Personally, I'm matching the field on them, which I guess, I haven't blacked out. I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's an important talking point here, right? I think they're both adequate plays. Let's talk about Patrick Cantlay. So Patrick Cantlay is kind of like the odd duckling out. He's definitely going to be a lot lower owned than he should be just because of how highly owned I expect Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele to be. And to this point, it's like 2.5, 2.6 shots that he's lost with the putting, which is very uncharacteristic of a Patrick Cantlay, but also somebody who's, I believe, leading the field. At least the last time I checked it, he was leading the field in GIR percentage. That's ridiculous. I mean, first off, he's not that type of guy in approach typically. So clearly playing his butt off when it comes to the ball striking, but losing with the putter. You'd argue that that's a perfect scenario to go out and target, Patrick Cantlay. We usually try to do this when it's the opposite scenario though, right? We try to do this when a ball striker is coming in and not necessarily putting the ball the best because they're always volatile with that putter, right? Patrick Cantlay usually relies on that putter to have success, and he'll spike with that approach play. I actually think it's a little bit concerning that he can't get it done with what he always, usually relies on. So, I don't want to mark him off as a play that I just hate. I mean, I'm personally not going to be on Patrick Cantlay here for this slate, just because I am worried about that punting. I mean, just that's usually what he relies on, right? And when somebody loses the number one weapon, I definitely think that's a cause for concern. But I understand getting to him because, like, typically, right, it's all about the guys that are ball striking it well, but they can't make a putt. But typically, those guys are ball strikers, typically, anyways, right? Like, their baseline is just a really good ball striker who can't putt. That's not really the case with Patrick Cantlay, right? He's kind of the opposite type of build there, where what he's doing right now is especially concerning, especially surprising for Patrick Cantlay. It's why it's so notable. It's why Justin Ray went out there and tweeted about it, right? It's pretty glaring news. Let's talk about Rory McIlroy though. $9,800. And I look at him as yesterday's John Rahm. John Rahm kind of spun his wheels in round one, just middling round, kind of shot a few under par. Today, Rory McIlroy just was a par machine. He kept hitting greens, putting it to 25 feet, and could not make a putt for his life. Now, he wasn't hitting those explosive shots to 4 or 5 feet like we're used to seeing from a Rory McIlroy, which kind of sucks. That's why he didn't get to like 4 or 5 under par. But he's more than capable of improving on what he did today, right? In round one, he made those 9 birdies. He showed that firepower. Today, he just didn't have luck go his way. Like he was playing solid golf. He was hitting fairways. I shouldn't say that, actually. He couldn't hit a fairway for his life, but he was still hitting greens in bunches. He wasn't putting himself in problematic positions. Tomorrow, if he goes out there and he has his normal Rory McIlroy type of day and keeps it clean like he was able to in round 2, watch out, right? He could shoot that 7 to 8 under par round like you saw from Max Homa. And he's 26% owned, which is pretty significantly lower owned than those guys up top, and even lower owned than the Patrick Cantlay too. So definitely, I see myself starting a lot of lineups with somebody like a Rory McIlroy, particularly when I'm not taking a Scotty Scheffler or a Xander Schauffele. I guess John Rahm's worth a few talking points, right? He played really well today, which was great for our Showdown lineups. I do expect him to be a little bit chalky, so I guess it'll be a little bit beware there, right? Worry about that a little bit. Cam Smith looks like he was injured today, and they talked about that on the broadcast from what I heard. A few people in the Patreon let me know that anytime somebody is talked up as having an injury, their ownership is way, way lower than we project, and even lower than I typically project. I have him right around 20%, so, not super chalky, right? He's probably in the middle average in terms of his ownership there in this lower end of the 9K range. But I think he still has the upside, right? Anytime there's that injured golfer, they always say beware of the injured golfer, because a lot of times they go out there and smash. You hear a lot of negative narratives, a lot of negative stories about players from time to time, and they end up going out there and having ceiling performances. So like I said with Cam Smith, beware of the injured golfer. That might very well be the case here for Saturday. And he has a really weird habit of going out there and bouncing back after really shitty rounds. Don't be surprised if that happens there at $9,200, which is really cheap. And what I think is going to be like at least average ownership there for that range. Justin Thomas, I'm having a hard time gauging him here. He typically loves East Lake, so it's kind of surprising that he's just kind of had 2 average rounds to start his event. He's cheap enough to where, he was like $8,900 there for round 2, $9,000 for round 3. Makes sense there at -8. Not sure if I'm going to get there, though. The putter has kind of been lost for quite some time. And for him to have a ceiling performance, like he's going to have to make some putts, that's for sure. And I'm not sure if he really has that in his repertoire. So I'm a little bit hesitant there on a Justin Thomas. But we'll have to see come Sunday. Maybe he shows us a few glimpses here on Saturday, right? And he shoots something like 3 to 4 under par. Then maybe I'll be able to take him for Sunday Showdown, but we'll have to see. Let's go ahead and catch up on chat. Got some heartburn going again. This whiskey. It happened last night too on stream. We were drinking some of this Maker's Mark, and it gave me some gas. Maybe it's not sitting too well with the stomach. Either way, we're gonna power through it. It's not gonna stop us. That's for damn sure. But let's see what we've got going down in chat. See if there's any questions going on. What do we've got? Alrighty, Jeff says, "Are we going back to Hideki?" I am. He's what, like $6,800? It's ridiculous how underpriced he is in this slate. So played well today. Probably going to get some ownership like he deservingly should, just because of how he went out there and scored. He looks healthy at this point, but I think it's well warranted. So yeah, I'll be there for sure. Mark says Maker's Mark is the bomb. Cheers to that, Mark. Yeah, I like it. It's not expensive. It's not anything special out there that you have to special order or anything like that. But hey, it gets the job done. That's for damn sure. Got some water here too. Because I feel like I'm getting a little bit pasty right now. Jeff says Elijah Craig. Yeah, I can't. Hey, I was having that the other night too. I love myself some Elijah Craig. Wilson says, can't wait for next week, man. I got to go to the Corn Ferry Tour event. It's the Corn Ferry Tour Championship. Dude, nice. That's where people get their tour cards. There's a lot that comes down to the line there. Have a lot of fun there, Wilson. That's awesome to hear. Devin says, thoughts on Cam Smith? So, yeah, so I kind of just went over that there. So hopefully it gives you an idea. I think he has a good chance to bounce back. He's dealing with injury concerns. So just know, I'm always willing to play guys with injuries because I know as a competitor, like you'll play through it, right? It's golf. And I hate to say that like it's just golf, but you can play golf through injuries. Tiger Woods played on a broken leg, right? I don't care if he has some hip pain. I've played with back spasms before and I've played some pretty solid golf. It's not like you're playing football. It's not like you're playing soccer or a high contact sport like hockey, for example, where like that's going to be severely debilitating. Like, sure, golf is still a finesse sport, but sack up a little bit, right? Sack up, Cam Smith. Go out there, play some golf tomorrow. I think he's more than capable. So, yeah, I'll be there, Devin, for sure. DFS says Xander is playing phenomenal. He was automatic off the tee. Yeah, I can't agree with that. He hit like 13 of 14 greens, which is ridiculous. Nick Marr says Rory's going off tomorrow. Yeah, I agree, especially with all those pars. Like, he was playing good golf. Clean golf is a lot harder to put up than luck sack golf, like the Cameron Tringale type of format, where you're going out there, you're making a bunch of birdies and bogeys. Anyone can do that, right? Just be super aggressive, luck out, one set of every 4 holes, that sort of thing. It's a lot harder to go out there and be consistently good over 18 holes. That's what he did. Completely agree with you, Nick. Wilson says, I'm going to get some players. I have no idea what you're saying there, Wilson. You're going to have to give me a little clarification. Sorry about that, boss. Mark says, I believe the expression was beware of the sick golfer because of a cold or flu would occupy their mind. Yeah, I think that's where it started, but I've also heard beware of the injured golfer. I've heard that too. I think it definitely started there though. Yeah, like if it preoccupies their mind, right, they're not going to be as focused on whatever's holding them back, which typically is their own thoughts. So yeah, I think there's something to that, Mark. Good observation for sure. And TFS King says, who are you starting your single entry lineups with? We'll start that at the end. So when we go through the strategy, we'll talk through that. But Rory McIlroy, to give you the answer right now. So let's talk about Sam Burns. So Sammy Burns, we kind of talked about him a little bit. Like he doesn't get held down very often. Towards the beginning, somebody mentioned him as a potential candidate. I'm definitely getting there. He's $8,700. He's bounces back relatively quickly. He loves Bermuda. And at this golf course, to take it low, you got to have a ceiling round off the tee and on approach. Just put yourself in position. I mean, you got that Bermuda rough, right? It's hard to hit greens, put it close when you're in that. So he's definitely got to hit some fairways, but he's more than capable. He's done it at the Valspar Championship. I comp this, I don't want to say like directly, but pretty much directly to the Valspar. It's like now my number one comp for this week, especially the more I see it in person. Like it's like my 3rd year at the Tour Championship. But walking around the practice round on Wednesday was the first time I was like, this is the Valspar Championship. Like this is Copperhead, Innisbrook. And it's paid off a lot pretty well this week, right? It's something that I really used as a narrative there on Wednesday night. And we're in first place in the GPP. I can't complain. So definitely like Sam Burns at -2. I like the bounce back. I think he's also going to be relatively low owned, right? 17.4%. Tony Finau at -6. I don't think you can go wrong, right? He had the round today like we expected. I kind of called it word for word yesterday where Tony Finau starts slow. I mean, he's done that 3 or 4 times over the last few months. And then in round 2 goes out there and smashes. Did it last week, did it this week. And in round 3, kind of had a middling round last week. Didn't really have that ceiling round where he's making 6, 7 birdies. So I'm off of Tony Finau. I don't think he's the best play here. I don't think he's a bad play. I'm still going to have a little bit of exposure here, but he's not going to be, he's going to be one of the 5 plays that I'm matching the field on, if that gives you an idea there. Sungjae Im, I think he's going to be a little bit higher owned than everyone else in this range. So if there's going to be a chalky guy in the 8K range, I do think that would be Sungjae Im. A lot of that has to do with his score. He's -12, right? He's at the top of the leaderboard. He's playing solid golf. But in terms of pedigree, you could argue he's by far the worst player, right? In terms of world golf ranking, he is, right? He's the lowest ranked player by far of anybody, I believe, down here to $7,500, where you have Joaquin Niemann. I think that's where you start to get down to that range. So he's clearly a little bit overpriced, and he's also going to be overowned, right, because of that -12 score. People think that factors in for whatever reason. So I think at least I'm personally going to be avoiding somebody like a Sanjay M. And I'd probably recommend people to do the same thing. Matt Fitzpatrick had a horrible day today, was, I believe, 3 over through his first 11 holes, which was, kind of sucked. I played him in Showdown today, too. I had him on PrizePicks, too. It was one of the few duds that we had today. That was for sure. Matty Fitz, brace face. I should have expected it, right? I call him brace face for a reason. It looks like a child. He's going to go out there and fumble the bag, but I don't hate him. Like, I'm willing to get past that right now. Do I love him for tomorrow? Am I going to be heavily invested in brace face? Not going to be a heavy investment, but I understand if you get to him. He's still underpriced for his pedigree. After all, right, the U.S. Open champion at that point. Cameron Young, I do like a lot though. $7,900 for Cam Young is just a steal. At this point, he has asserted himself as one of the better players on tour. I mean, particularly of the rookies. I think he's at least number 1 or 2 in terms of those rankings. Probably number 1, to be quite frank with you. So I like him there at $7,900. Let's talk about Colin Morikawa extensively, though. Today, he was playing with Jordan Spieth, and if you guessed, guys, I watched Jordan Spieth all day. That's my boy. Have multiple videos of him making some birdies, which you'll love to see. But Colin Morikawa, he had the ball strike and work, and he was hitting just fairway after fairway, which is what you want to see, trying to get to a ceiling round. Like I mentioned, hit the ball to 4 to 5 feet around East Lake. You almost always have to get it in the fairway, I mean, particularly for a moving day. If they're going to be tucking it, that sort of thing, you got to be able to put any spin on the ball that you can. So I like getting to Colin Morikawa. He's got the off the tee accuracy and the approach play that I'm looking for. And that conventional putting style has worked pretty well over the last week and a half. So I like him there at $7,700. Joaquin Niemann, probably a fade. I know somebody mentioned him a little bit earlier, thought he might be a little bit overlooked. I don't think so. Because of his score, he's there at -11 as opposed to Matty Fitz at -12. I still think he's going to get quite a bit of attention. So if you're playing him thinking he's going to be low owned, don't use that as a reason to, play him, right? If you like the play, you like the fact that, he's near the top of the leaderboard, right? He's coming in with form. Sure, go ahead and play him, right? I think that makes sense. I think that's a good reason to play him there. But I don't think it's a good reason to play him thinking he's going to be low owned. So I know we had that question a little bit earlier. That's my take there. He's not my personal favorite play. I'm not going to be getting there, but I understand it. Aaron Wise, I think, is bad chalk. Not even going to say anything other than that. I just don't think he's a good play. Victor Hovland, perhaps a really good bounce back candidate, right? $7,300, more than capable of going out there and having a ceiling performance. But let's talk about Jordan Spieth. Now, I've seen every single shot that he's hit over the first 2 rounds, guys. Yes, I'm a Jordan Spieth fanboy. I'm a self-admitted one, right? At least I admit that I'm a fanboy of him, right? A lot of people out there are fanboys of players and they won't admit it, right? At least I admit it's kind of cringe how much I like Jordan Spieth. But on top of that, I'm able to see somebody who's playing pretty damn good golf. A day one hit 14 greens today, kept himself in position pretty much all day, hit well over his share of fairways, played pretty damn good with his GAR percentage too, just made 3 sloppy bogeys that, he had par saving opportunities for. They were like 4 to 5 feet and he missed them. And that's kind of Jordan Spieth's thing, right? He'll go out there and he'll miss very, very, I don't want to say makeable putts, but putts that you've got to make to go out there and have a ceiling performance, right? And he still shot -2. He shot -2 in round 1, 2, right? And we'd argue that that is disappointing. It's only disappointing because he didn't get to 4 to 5 under par. And what could he do to fix that? Oh, just make some 4 to 5 footers. At both rounds, he missed at least 3 to 4, 3 4 to 5 footers there over the first 2 rounds. It's always the argument to play Jordan Spieth, right? Just hope that he cleans it up, goes out there, shoots 5 under par, bogey-free round. He's more than capable. He's striking the ball beautifully right now, and he's $7,200. I played 60% today. I might play 100% Jordan Spieth tomorrow. In fact, I'm just going to say right now, I am locking Jordan Spieth for round 3. That is actually going to happen. He's going to be in every single lineup that I make. Going down to $6,700, I will be playing Billy Horschel at 67. He likes the golf course. He's going to be a little kind of like a sprinkle win kind of candidate. Obviously, if I'm playing 100% Jordan Spieth, I'm not going to need that many guys in this range. But he loves himself Bermuda grass. He can hit a lot of fairways. And like I mentioned, for these moving day type of pins, you got to be in the fairway to access them, right? To apply any spin to the golf ball. Billy Ho hits a lot of fairways. So I do think that helps him out there. And also going to make a lot of putts on Bermuda, and to have him at 12.7% owned, which is one of the lowest owned players on the entire slate. And lastly, we've got ourselves Brian Harman. So $6,200. This is a pure gut play. I'll just say that right now. I don't have that many reasons to play Brian Harman here, other than that he, yet again, hits fairways, which I like around this golf course. That was a stat we were looking at going into the week too, right? So it's not just for the moving day pins. We like to see that at East Lake to begin with. Also loves Bermuda grass. So kind of similar to a Billy Horschel, right? That's why I'm playing both of these guys. They're both at -3. I also have them at 13.5% projected owned. So again, one of the lower owned players on the entire slate there. Definitely going to be somebody I'm well over the field on. So I like Brian Harman. I like Billy Horschel. They're both really cheap. And again, I'm playing 100% Jordan Spieth. So if I go to Jordan Spieth and then take Brian Harman, I mean, I can live in the 8, 9, and 10K range at that point. I can pretty much play whoever I want, take my 3 to 4 favorite guys there, maybe 110, 2 9K guys and an 8K guy, or maybe 2 10K guys, 1 9 and 1 8K guy. However I want to go about that and build some pretty solid lineups. So that's what I'm thinking here for the second round. What we'll do now is catch up on chat, go over any questions. Then we'll go through some strategy talk. We'll build a single entry and a GPP lineup. And then we're going to wrap it up with the PrizePicks content. So I meant to mention that at the beginning. Go into look at the board, and I'll give you guys my first reaction, first look at that, because I haven't even looked at the board yet. So it'll be a true first reaction there. Let's see what we got there, though. We have Mark who says brace face looks like he has a full wad of chew going while he's playing. Yeah, he doesn't chew though. He's a little bit too straight edge for that sort of thing. I think it's just his tongue. I think he's a little bit of a nervous Nelly out there. It's kind of like blowing up his cheeks or whatever. But yeah, I kind of noticed that too. Graham says, "Are you crazy to go back to Matt Fitzpatrick?" I don't think you're crazy. Like I don't know if it's my favorite play, just because he looked pretty dreadful today, to be quite honest with you. But you're not crazy. He's a high pedigree player. He's not $8,200, right? He's more than cheap enough to get to that ceiling performance, and he's better than Sungjae Im. I mean, he's probably even better than Sam Burns, and I know he's better than Colin Morikawa, probably 100% better than Joaquin Niemann, probably better than Cam Young. I mean, yeah, he's a good play at $8,200. I don't think you're crazy out there at all. Mighty says, "Good luck in the $5, sir. I'm just a few points behind you, Rom versus Scheffler." Yeah, I hate to flex on you like this, Mightiest. I have like 10 or 20 lineups out there in like the top 100 to 200 lineups. So if that one gets passed, I got other ones to track you down, buddy. So I hate to say that to you, bud. I got a bunch up there. You're going to have more than one lineup to worry about. Wilson says, "How will I get the players' attention to get your autograph on the Korn Ferry Tour?" Go whenever they're signing their scorecard. So they'll go into their hut, they'll sign the scorecard, and usually they come out and do a meet and greet with the fans. So that's what they were doing today. Jordan Spieth did that for like 10, 20 minutes. I didn't ask for an autograph. I'm not going to do that myself. But that would be the perfect time to do so, right after they sign their scorecard. So figure out wherever the scores tent is, and then usually there's going to be like a lineup afterwards. There'll be like, I'm assuming even at the Korn Ferry Tour, probably a few people waiting for autographs. That is the way to go about that. Let's go ahead and head over to DraftKings. We're going to bring up some lineups, talk through this lineup making process, some of the things that I'm thinking about when I'm building a lineup here. And we're going to start with a GPP sort of build. So for a large field contest, assuming we're playing against at least 10,000 other entries. Got to sip down some of this whiskey there, right? We can't leave it here all stream. We got another like 10 minutes here, so we might as well make a dent on that. Let's talk through this GPP strategy. So for a large field GPP, we're always thinking about ownership. And I think if you just skip Scheffler and Xander Schauffele, you could probably build however you want, to be quite honest with you. Like if you wanted to start with Rory McIlroy, take Sam Burns, who we talked about. You can even take a Matt Fitzpatrick. In the 7K range, again, I'm locking Jordan Spieth. You still have $8,000 remaining, right? So you're starting with 4 guys that I'm very comfortable getting to here for the next round, and you still have plenty of salary flexibility. Like if you wanted to take a JT, go down here to like $7,100, finish it off with an Adam Scott, you'd be able to make that sort of lineup, right? You can definitely make that work. Whereas, just to give you an idea here, right? If you start with Scotty Scheffler here, let's make your second man in Rory McIlroy. I think a lot of people might be tempted to make this sort of lineup. You're down here at $7,000, right? You're in a completely different price range, right? You can't go up to a JT anymore, right? You'd have, like $6,000 remaining, right? You'd have to finish it off with a Tom Hoagie. Whereas I think if you take this more balanced build, like your floor player is, let's see, like an Adam Scott, like a Victor Hovland, for example, or even better, right? Sometimes you might even be able to end a lineup with your lowest price player being somebody like a Jordan Spieth. I like that idea a lot more than being aggressive, taking one of these super high-owned players in a single, this is for the large field GPP, but even in a single entry, like a 2 to 3 max, smaller field sort of stuff, I'd rather take the more balanced approach too. So, if I was building 5 to 10 lineups, if I was building 1 to 2, doing those sort of contests, I would definitely be starting with a Rory McIlroy. But I mean, even if I'm just doing 20 to 30 GPP lineups, now if I'm doing 150 max, which is what I'm doing, right? So just to give you what I'm actually executing on, I'm still going to have lineups with Scotty Scheffler and Xander, but it's going to be like, I'm just assuming, right? I haven't actually built my lineup stuff. Probably like 35% of each player. Probably going to have 35% Scotty, 35% Xander Schauffele. I'm going to make a rule to not play them together. I don't think there's going to be an optimal where both of them are in it. Just I'm making a stand against that. So I'm going to have probably 30% of lineups that just start down here in the 9K range, right? Where I'm starting with either a Rory, maybe starting with a Cam Smith, that sort of thing. Maybe it's a John Rahm here at $9,500. But that type of build, like if you're only building a few lineups, that's the way I'd go. Like I think that that's the optimal way to build here for the next round. Now, if you're building more of a portfolio type of approach, right? I don't think you have to avoid the guys up top. But if you're not building all those lineups, maybe just fade the top 2 guys, right? They're going to be the highest owned players on the slate. They're not that much more likely to succeed. They're in the lead. They're going to have extra pressure on them. They're in the quote unquote worst conditions, right? I know it's only a 2.5 hour difference in terms of tee times, but maybe that makes a 0.2 shot difference between the quote unquote 2 waves. That's what I would do if you're only playing a few lineups. Let's go ahead and do a cash build now, since we got the 2 birds with 1 stone right there. In cash, I don't want to say you have to play one of those guys up top, but you probably should. So let's go ahead and put Xander in there just for the sake of this video. As our second man in, I actually want to go down to this 9K range. Let's go ahead and put Sam Burns. I think he's fine for cash. He does a lot of scoring, makes a lot of birdies. Let's go ahead and put Morikawa in there because he played pretty decently today. Let's put Jordan Spieth too, right? He shot, what was it, -2 the first 2 days. That's more than enough for a cash contest. And you have $8,000 remaining. You can make a really balanced build here. If you wanted to take Sanjay based on how he's playing, I couldn't blame you. You could go down, finish it off with somebody like a Joaquin Niemann, which obviously is going to be relatively chalky too, because he's there at -11, Sanjay there at -12. That's a lineup that makes a lot of sense to me, right? You're going to have, what is it? 4 guys in the top 6. So you're going to have Xander. You're going to have somebody like Sanjay, also Joaquin Niemann. Actually, I guess not, right? Jordan Spieth's there at 15th, but all of them are playing relatively good golf to this point. A lot of them are underpriced, like Morikawa and Spieth. I mean, even Sam Burns, I'd argue, is pretty underpriced there at that price tag. That's the sort of build that I would personally be looking at here for a showdown type of build in cash. So that's all I got here for that. Let me go ahead and bring up PrizePicks now. So I know they have the board up, so I'll bring that up and we'll talk through that. If you have any questions for Showdown, feel free to go ahead and put them down in chat. But also, if you have any questions when it comes to PrizePicks or any props that you have your personal eye on, feel free to go ahead and point them out too. And Nick just did the thing. I was waiting on this. I wasn't going to talk about it because, like, I don't know. I don't want to shill for cash out here. But Nick hit us with the super chat out there and said, "Round of drinks on you tonight." Nick, there's going to be a round of drinks on you tonight, and you're going to get pictures and videos from it. So thank you, by the way, Nick. That is a super chat feature, by the way, something that I just activated a few streams ago. I can't thank you enough for that, Nick. You're the first ever person to super chat here on the channel, and one of the first supporters here too. Somebody that I appreciate quite a bit. Somebody I'm glad to call a friend too. So love to have you here, Nick, and hopefully we can smash this weekend too. So yeah, that was unexpected. That's pretty sweet, Nick. You're the real MVP. Definitely going to have quite a good amount of juju going your way now. But let's talk through this PrizePicks board, which I think is going to be quite a bit of fun here. So for PrizePicks, I mean, the board looks really similar. I mean, I did a little bit of a glance over before we went on stream here. They were projecting guys for birdies at right around 4.5 to start the week. You had a few guys at 3.5, like Corey Connors, who I don't even see on the board here, which is kind of disappointing. He was at 3.5 yesterday. He smashed that, right? He made 5 birdies today. Then you have guys like Sepp Straka, right, at 3.5 birdies, who smashed that today too. I kind of like that. Like, just from my first glance here, right? Now, I don't know if it's going to make my final list here afterwards, right? It'll be posted on Patreon. Make sure to check it out. I like 3.5 birdies there. I like a few of the guys at 4, like a Matty Fitz, right? He didn't have the best round today, but if I'm going to take overs on guys here, it's probably the guys at 4.5. The guys at 4. The guys at 4.5, I'm a little bit more hesitant there because, we're expecting pin locations to be gettable, but conditions to be a little bit firmer and faster, right? Birdies aren't going to be nearly as gettable. And then the guys in the lead, right? They're teeing off at 3 p.m., which is, I think it's only a half an hour later than what we had here for the first 2 rounds, but still half an hour later, right? 3 p.m. start time. You're not finishing until like 7:30, 8 p.m. So these guys that are at 4.5, you're going to have to be really sold on them if you think they're going to go out there and get to that ceiling performance. So I don't want to completely write them off there, but it's like just first glance, like Rory McIlroy, right? 4.5. I like that. Like that's a guy that I'd taken over on. Xander Schauffele, that makes quite a bit of sense, right? He's a stud at this golf course. Like I'm willing to take those sort of plays at 4.5, but you're telling me Cam Smith even, right? He's dealing with the injury. That seems pretty dicey to me. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, even a JT, right? He's had that putter issue for quite some time. And my boy Jordan Spieth, I mean, that's just horrible. They put him at 4.5. Like that's concerning, right? I love Jordan Spieth. I'm the biggest Jordan Spieth stan in the world. Holy shit, alliteration there. That made that a little bit difficult. Jordan Spieth though, 4.5 birdies. That's a little aggressive. I mean, even Colin Morikawa, like 4.5 birdies. That's pretty aggressive there. So if you're going to be taking overs on those sort of plays, be sold on them. Be damn sure that they're going to go out there and have a good round, because to get to 5 birdies around East Lake, that's far from a given. That's something that's earned. That's not given to you. Like you can be given 5 birdies at the John Deere Classic. Like it's not hard to get to that number at all. You're going to have a hell of a round to get to that number around East Lake. In terms of strokes, let's see what we've got, which I haven't looked at this one at all, actually. I looked at the Birdie or Better board to start the stream. Let's see what we've got here, though. Got no one at 16. Well, we have one guy at 69, Sepp Straka. Then everyone else is 68.5 or worse. I told you guys, I think the scoring average is going to be like 68.5, if not even a little bit higher than that, which makes me want to fade a lot of players here. I mean, it's the elite tier guys on the board, so obviously they're going to be playing better than most. But to project guys for 66 strokes to hurt us here, right, to shoot -4 or better, I mean, I like a lot of fades up top. I mean, maybe not Rory McIlroy, but Xander Schauffele, Scotty Scheffler, like, I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger on it, but I mean, I surely wouldn't be taking the under. I'll just say that, right? I think that's the important point here. I wouldn't be taking the under on these guys at 67. Now, am I going to take the over? I'm not sure I have the stones to pull that off, right? But in terms of taking the under, I would not be doing so. I'm expecting the course to get a little bit more difficult tomorrow, and they hardly got under that number the first 2 days. Let's see. John Rahm at 67. Yeah, it's the same story. Pretty similar guy there. JT at 67, I'd probably take the over there. That's probably the one over I'd be pretty comfortable taking there. At 68, I mean, they picked pretty good players for this. I mean, yeah, it's the strokes board's kind of a fade for me. I don't love it in general. Like I mentioned, the guys at 67 strokes, I don't think you can take the under. I think projecting somebody to shoot -4 at East Lake is like ridiculous. Like, sure, they can get there. Like, they've done it multiple times at this point, right? Like, the easier conditions, sure, granted, right? Easier to get to those scores. It's not guaranteed to happen again. In fact, it's probably not going to happen again, right? So I'd be betting against them. If anything, it's just like, it's a bad board. I'll just say that. It's kind of a fade board for me. Over here with Birdie or Better matchups. Let's see. Are they giving us a horrible board, or is it more competitive? It looks like a pretty shitty board, to be honest with you. Cam Smith over Hideki. Smash over right there. I like Hideki. I think he's playing better, right? But you're talking about Cam Smith, like the best player on tour when it comes to Birdie or Better percentage. He birdies 39% of the time. He hits a GAR. 39% of the time. 40% of the time. That's just ridiculous stuff, if you ask me. So definitely taking the over on Cam Smith. Let's see. JT versus Wise. I'd go right back to JT. I took JT today. Did not work out, but I'd go right back to it. Jordan over Sahith Theegala. So rather than taking 4.5 birdies for Jordan Spieth, I'd much rather just take the Birdie or Better matchup there. So I think that makes quite a bit of sense. Let's see. These are probably fades for me. Yeah, all these guys at the bottom are fades. All these scrubs versus each other. But I like the Jordan Spieth one. I like the JT one that we talked about. And I love the Cam Smith versus Hideki Matsuyama. All 3 of those matchups make quite a bit of sense. Moving over to greens and regulation. Ooh, don't want to mess up the stream there. Sorry about that, boys. They have the board the exact same. I think like literally almost every player on the board here is the exact same as what we saw here for Friday. It was a fade on Friday. It's a fade once again. This is priced appropriately. The guys at the top at 13.5, it makes sense. I'd be taking like an under on somebody like a Cantlay. I think that's well too high. The guys at 13, I think they're all appropriate. Maybe take an under on Matt Fitzpatrick. He sometimes has troubles hitting the fairway on greens regulation. Let's see. but these guys at the bottom are probably fades. I think that those are pretty appropriate projections. Moving over to fairways, they were relatively easy to hit today, but I do think they're also going to bake out a little bit as the week goes on. Let's see. Under on Cantlay, probably. Under on Xander. They still come at 9 fairways. He hit 13 today. That's just not happening again. Just ridiculous if you took the over at 9 fairways today on Xander. I kind of joked around saying that it was a fish play, but it truly was. He's a below average driver in terms of accuracy. The average was 8.2 fairways. So, I mean, we're projecting him for like 7.9. So I don't know why you take the over at 9 fairways, but hey, if you did, it worked out today, right? So maybe I'm the fish, but numbers point to it being a fish play. So I'd be taking the under there once again. Under probably on no one else. I mean, these guys at the bottom, like to hit 7 out of 14 fairways, it's going to happen to quite a few players, but to project for it, it's just a tough scene. So I'd probably stick to Xander Schauffele, maybe take the under and a Patrick Cantlay here at 8.5. But outside of that, I like the birdie or better board. Quite a few overs that I liked. I mean, maybe a few unders on the guys at 4.5. But mostly just, stick to the plays here in round 3. As PrizePicks goes throughout the week, they tend to kind of tighten up the lines. At least last week, I noticed that the board actually got a little bit stronger as the week went on. So they started at like 4 birdies for Friday and Saturday. They were both right around 4.5. And then by Sunday last week, they were at like 5 birdies right around Wilmington Country Club. And that was like fade central. On Sunday, we went ham on the fades there on PrizePicks, and it paid off huge. It kind of seems like they're doing the same thing here, right? So, if trends continue on Sunday, you might see some of these guys at 5 birdies, and that might be the perfect time to go out there and fade them. So, for round 3, I might be a little bit lighter on my exposure. So you can see I have $1,600 in my account up here. By the way, anybody that like hides their amount of money in their account, like I just don't get that. Like, I don't know. Like I have nothing to lose by showing you I have $1,600 in my account. It's pretty fluid, right? I'm winning money, I'm losing money on there. Sometimes I'm taking money out, that sort of thing. But yeah, that's like, I'm probably going to play $650 just to give you an idea, right? I'm probably going to put my balance down to $1,000 with my lineups. Whereas a lot of times I'm playing $1,000 going full out. By the way, if you didn't know this might be news to some of you out there. I only talk about this on the Patreon. Really, I'm limited on PrizePicks. I can only play $100 entries. I can only play one card that the exact same. So if you want to do a duplicate entry of one, I can't because they're limiting me at $100. I guess they don't want me entering like 2 $100 entries of the same players. I can only win a maximum of $5,000 on the same player, and I have a maximum daily limit of $1,000. So it's a little bit of a tough scene on PrizePicks. They've limited me, I guess, because I'm a winning player, and they don't want me to take more of their money, which I guess I understand. But it's also kind of cowardly, right? Maybe just get better lines makers that know what they're doing, that can set proper lines. And you could offer an equitable product to everybody, right? Where you're not selectively choosing people to limit because they're winning money off you, and you can't take the smoke, right? You can't deal with it. I think that's what it is. So that's all we're going to do for PrizePicks. I'm done talking shit at this point. I do have a dinner reservation to get to here in like 40 minutes. I appreciate everybody stopping by for the stream as always. Let's see if there's any questions. Nick says, I'll take all the voodoo luck I can take. You definitely have some extra luck on your side. Best of luck here for round 3. Mark says, where do you find the PrizePicks contest? There's no PrizePicks contest. So let me go ahead and share this for you, Mark, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. It's all doing slips against the house. So what you'll do here, right? If I click in 3 guys, now these aren't picks that I'm taking, right? I'm just showing you this here. You can take like a 3-leg parlay, and you can either do a power play, which is you have to get all 3 right to win, and you win 5x, or you can do a flex play where, if you get one wrong, you still win 1.25x. But if you get all 3 right, you only get 2.25x. So, right, obviously, because, you're opening up the 2-win sort of outcome there, you get paid a little bit less if all 3 hit. So it's fun. You pick your favorite props, you pick over or under, and you go out there and try to win some money. I have a lot of fun on it. I also win a lot of money playing on PrizePicks. So if you haven't checked it out already, I highly recommend you check it out. And I'm not even sponsored by them. I'm just saying that as a pure fan of their website. I do think they have slapdick lines makers, though. I'm trying to make that as clear as humanly possible. PrizePicks, if your lines makers are just going to follow my data, follow my props, and just bump the board accordingly every single slate, maybe just hire better lines makers, right? They don't have to do so, because I'm still getting in my cards. The people that are on my Patreon are still getting in cards with those props and completely killing you at this point, right? Take out the middleman. Just get somebody that's better at making your props. That's all I got to say. Gonna jump off my soapbox at that point. Thomas says it's Straka's day tomorrow. Hey, if you think so, he's gonna be relatively low, and that's for sure. Joe Hoover says Big SS looked out of sorts. Scotty Scheffler, I think he looks pretty good today, right? What he shoot like -5, something like that. Maybe he looked a little bit. I mean, he did look like Xander, right? Obviously, he's playing next to Xander Schauffele, so I think that might have had something to do with it. You might be talking about Scott Stallings, right? Maybe you're talking about Scott Stallings rather than Scotty Scheffler. If you're talking about Scott Stallings, yeah, I agree. I kind of expected that. Like he goes on heaters, and he gets really cold. He's just not that guy. I like Scott Stallings, really good guy out there. Just he's not an elite level player, right? He was celebrating that second place at the BMW, like he had won the damn thing, right? Which I think we know why. So I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Really appreciate everybody stopping by. Nick Morris is an absolute legend for the super chat. Thank you for everybody that stopped by, everyone. Best of luck with your lineups, with your PrizePicks lineups, if you're going that direction too. We will be doing the same thing for round 4. So hopefully right around 9 p.m., actually probably a little bit earlier, like 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be going live with that. So make sure to stop on by for that. Also covering PrizePicks for that stream. And hopefully we can hold on to these GPPs, right? Like I'm up there in the top 200 with a bunch of lineups. I know a lot of you out there, like Mighty's Helmut's is up there too. A few other people on the Patreon are up there in the top 52. One of us, right? It doesn't have to be me. I like it to be me. It doesn't have to be me, right? I'm not that selfish about it. One of us needs to take down the GBP this week. I'm feeling it. We've got a pretty damn good player pool to this point. One of us out there is going to take it down and make it an epic week. I kind of hope it's myself. But until then, guys, best of luck, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow night.